Greetings, students. Today we're going to discuss practice test 1-4. Let's begin. Question number 1, find the measure of angle B. So this is a straight line. Therefore, 76 and B are supplementary. So I can take 180 and subtract 76 to get the measurement of angle B, because those two angles are supplementary. So angle B is 104 degrees. You have to show the work here in order to receive credit. Question 2. This is a complementary set because this angle is 90 here and this is a straight line. B plus 28 is 90, so we're going to take 90, subtract 28. That will be the measurement of angle B on this particular one, 62 degrees. Again, you must show the work to receive full credit here. Question 3. This is another supplementary set, but this time it's harder to set up. So I can't just do 180 minus because I have an x here to solve for. So I'm going to add these together and set it equal to 180. I could have done the same thing up here by doing B plus 76 equals 180. And then taking 76 from 180 would be the answer, like we did. So again, I'm going to add this up. 3x plus x, that's 4x. 1 minus 13, that's minus 12. And set it equal to 180. 12 to 180 is 192. And then 192 divided by 4 will be my answer here, which is 48. The value of x. I did only ask for the value of x, so that is finished. I could substitute the x back in and verify that these are in fact supplementary angles, and that might be a good idea to check your work. So 48 minus 13 is 35. And then 48 times by 3 plus 1, 145, which is 180 total. All right, next thing, the segment addition postulate. The two small segments, 2x minus 7 plus x plus 3 are going to add up to be equal to that 8. All right, so 2x plus x is 3x. Negative 7 plus 3 is minus 4. Or minus 7 plus 3 is minus 4. This will be equal to 8. Adding the 4 to the 8 will yield 12. And dividing 3 into 12 will yield 4. Again, I can verify my work by putting the 4 back in. 4 plus 3 is 7. 2 times 4, which is 8, minus 7 is 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. Next question. Question 5. Angle addition postulate. Again, you should always label these angles as you come across them in the test or on the questions for the tests. So UTL is this angle here, this smaller angle. I'll put an arc with it, and a 91 as it's labeled. UTS is the entire angle, UTS, so I'll put a longer arc that goes from U to S, connecting U all the way to S through T, and that's 154. And you need to decide whether to subtract or add the angles. This is called the angle addition postulate, but sometimes you subtract, and in this case we do subtract because we're looking at UTS, the entire angle, subtracting off the smaller angle, UTL. 154 minus 91 is 63 degrees. In other words, 63 plus 91 is 154. We have a similar setup on the next question. However, on this one, we have to solve for x. So here I've got IJM. IJM is 37. So I'll put the label here. That's 37, the small angle. IJK, which is the entire angle, is 19x plus 8. And MJK is 14x plus 1. All right, so the 14x plus 1 plus the 37 will equal the 19x plus 8. So 14x plus 1 plus 37, so that is 14x plus 38 is equal to 19x plus 8. Taking 14 from 19 yields a 5, or you could take 19 from 14 to yield a negative 5. It wouldn't really matter which way you went, so maybe I'll make this a negative 5. X plus 38 equals 8. Taking 38 from 8 yields negative 30. So x here is 6. I did just ask for the value of x on this question, not the angle. So x equals 6 is fine in terms of the answer. It might be worthwhile to put the 6 back in and check your work. So 6 times 14 plus 1 is 85. And then 19 times 6 plus 8 is equal to 122. So these two angles add up together to make 122. In other words, 37 plus 14 times 6 plus 1, 122 degrees. It might be useful to check your work there. Not required, however. I just asked for you to solve for x, so that's all that's required on the question. All right, next question, find the distance. So again, here I'm looking at the distance form. I'm looking at how far the y's changed and how far the x's changed. The x's are 8 and 2. The y's are negative 5 and negative 8. So the x is decreased by 6. So we have the square root of negative 6 squared. The y is increased or decreased by 3 plus negative 3 squared. These will be positive when they square because they're quantities in parentheses, negative quantities. So this will be 36 plus 9. This will be the square root of 45 in this case. And I do have the reduction of the root within this question this week. So we have the root here, which I will look for to see if you have the root right. And then we also have the reduction of the root built into the same question, 2 questions in one. On previous weeks, it's been separate questions. Here, it's 2 questions built into one. Anyways, so 45 is 9 by 5. That's why option B is correct here, because 9 becomes a 3. Question 8. This is vertical angles. So these are what are called vertical angles. They are congruent. So I'll set 1 plus 2x equal to 35. Taking 1 from 35 yields 34. So x is 17. It's very easy to verify my work here on this question because 1 plus 34 is 35. 2 times 17 is 34. It's very easy to verify my work. All right, next thing, find the radius of the circle with a circumference of 16 pi. Circumference is 2 pi r. C is equal to 2 pi r. So 16 pi is equal to 2 pi r. So I divide 16 by 2, and the pi in this case cancels because it's part of the circumference and it's part of the formula. So r must be 8 in this particular case because 8 times 2 pi is equal to 16 pi. And I should have my answer in feet here. I may be taking off if you don't have the units. All right, classify the angles acute, obtuse, or right. So an acute angle is like a less than or greater than sign. So there's either a greater than sign. So acute angle would be like that, or less than sign this way. A right angle is a corner. So that would be a right angle, and it can be either direction, this way or this way. And an obtuse angle opens up bigger than that. Now, I can't open my hand up bigger than a right angle. That's just something I can't do. But it opens up bigger than a right angle. So if it's bigger than a corner, then it's a obtuse angle. This is obtuse. Of course, a straight angle would just be a line, segment, or a line. If it has arrows, it's a line. If it doesn't have the arrows, it's a line segment. So it would be a line or a line segment. Anyways, I intend to make each of these worth 5 points each. So we'll have 50 points on the front here. Moving along the back. we go. All right, find the other endpoint of the line segment with endpoint, midpoint. What I like to do here again is I like to set them up vertically. So -9, 5 is my endpoint. I use M for the midpoint, so I can differentiate it from the other points on my segment. 6, -1. And I look for a pattern here. So to get from -9 to 6, I had to add 15. So to get to my endpoint, my other endpoint, I'm going to add 15 to 6, which will be 21. So it's looking like C is my option. And I'll check to verify that's the proper option with the Y values. To get from 5 to -1, we had to subtract 6. I'm going to subtract another 6. Yeah, that's -7. Again, the midpoint is halfway in between. So 6 is halfway in between 21 and -9. It's 15 away from 21. It's 15 below it. And it's 15 above -5. I shouldn't say below and above because it's an X value, left and right. It's 15 to the left of 6, -9 is, and it's 15 to the right, or the other way around. 15 to the right of -9, 6 is, and 15 to the left of 21. And it's above and below. The -1 is above and below. All right, find the midpoint. Here we add and divide by 2. So again, I prefer to set these up vertically and add and divide by 2 vertically, but you're welcome to do it however you want. We're taking the 2 points, -9, 4, and -8, 10. We're adding them together, 14, 10 plus 4, and -17. Both those are negative, so they add and you keep the sign. And then we divide by 2. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. And -17 divided by 2 is -8.5 or 8.5, -17.5. Option C. Different questions. Here I'm asking you for the midpoint, so you find the average by adding and dividing by 2. Here I'm asking you for the end point. So here you're trying to establish the pattern and find the ending number in the pattern. Question 13, area of a square. We multiply length by width to get the area. I'm asking for area, not perimeter here. With perimeter, we would add the 4 sides together. With area, we multiply the 4 sides together. So 4.4 times by 4.4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 40 is 160. Put our 0 here again. 40 times 4 is 160. And I'm running out of space here. And then 40 times 40 is 1600. I'm going to add straight down. Sorry, I kind of ran out of space there. Showed my work a little bit too big. So I got 6 at the very end of this. Then I got 6, 12, 13. Then I've got 1, 2, 3, 9. And then I got a 1. 19 and 36 hundredths, square meters. The decimal goes 2 spots over because there's 2 spots of decimal worth there. And again, if you want to do your work with multiplication differently than I did it, that's fine. This is just how I've started doing my multiplication. So I did 4 times 4 to get 16. Then I did 4 times 40, 40, to get 160. So 16, 160. Then I did 40 times 4, 160 again. And then 40 times 40, 1,600. All right, write as a conditional statement. All fish have fins. So does this mean if it's got fins, it's a fish? Or if it's a fish that it has fins? Which one does it say? That's what I'm asking here. So this has to be an if-then statement. It must have the words if and then. If it does not have the words if and then, it is wrong. That's what a conditional statement is. So your question you should be asking is, does this say if it has fins, it's a fish? Or does it say if it's a fish, that it has fins? It says if it's a fish, then it has fins. So again, the wording is important here. The order of the words. All fish have fins. Not all finned animals are fish. So if I switch this around in the original statement, if I said all finned animals are fish, then it would say if it has fins, then it's a fish. That would be the conditional for that. But the way it is right now, it says all fish have fins. So if it's a fish, then it has fins. That's what it says right now. And that is, I don't know if that's a real true statement or not. Sometimes these conditional statements are true, sometimes they're not. It's a majority of the fish do have fins, though, so it's majority, the majority of the time that's a true statement. Anyway, so 5 points each on each of these, 5, 10, 15, 20. Next thing, this one is going to be worth multiple points because it's the longer question here. And since I only have 18 questions on the test here, so I do intend to make this worth 3 questions worth. 5 points for the contrapositive, 5 points for the converse, 5 points for the inverse. So just because it's labeled as number 15 doesn't mean it's only going to count as one single question. So if you're looking to study something, get most of the points on the back here, this is 15 points. 3 times as much as the rest of the questions because it's got 3 times the blanks. All right, so my conditional statement, if x is 4, then 2x is equal to 8. Contrapositive, converse, and inverse. So what means what? So the original statement is P makes Q. P makes Q. So this makes this. The contrapositive is the negation and the flip. The converse and the inverse, in other words, put together. So this is going to flip it around if 2x, and you can put does not equal in words, or you can put the equal with a slash through it, does not equal 8, then x does not equal 4. So this is the inverse and the converse put together. We flip the statement around and we negate it. All right, the converse is the flip of the statement. So we flip the statement to say what the backwards is. So if 2x is equal to 8, then x is equal to 4. We flip the statement around. We don't negate it here, though. And the inverse is the negation, but not the flip. If x is not 4, then 2x is not equal to 8. Converse, inverse, contrapositive. Flipping the statement around, negating the statement, and both negation and flip. All right, and I like to think of it as, once again, that the contrapositive is the longest word, so it has to do both items. The inverse is like inverse operations, where you negate what the statement says. So you do the negation of the statement. So with a negation with add, subtract, multiply, and divide. If you had x plus 4 equals 6, you would subtract 4 because minus 4 is the opposite of plus 4. So I like to think of the inverse as just that, inverse operations. You negate it. If it's x plus 4, you do x minus 4. If it's x minus 4, you do x plus 4. The opposite operations, in other words, negation. And the converse is the flip. Converse is flip. Conversely is a proper word there. Conversely is when you flip the statement around. Anyways, hopefully that makes somewhat of a sense. All right, question 16. With a biconditional statement, the words if and only if must be used. So I do not particularly care what you put here. If it doesn't have the if and only if, you will not get credit. You can use IFF if you want to abbreviate if and only if, but you must have the words if and only if in your statement. That is what a biconditional statement has. So in the middle of the statement is where that goes. Not at the start, not at the end. If and only if. It must contain those 4 words, if and only if, which you can abbreviate. If you would prefer to abbreviate if and only if, you can do IFF as the abbreviation of if and only if, but it must contain those 4 words. And now the order here doesn't matter. So you're going to put both these items, the hypothesis and the conclusion, into this, and it won't matter the order you put it in. So you can put the John lives in Las Vegas, then he lives in Nevada, or you can put John lives in Nevada. If he lives in Nevada, then he lives in Las Vegas. You can do either order here because an if and only if statement should go both ways. So John lives in Vegas. Notice I didn't put the words if at the start because the if is in the middle. John lives in Vegas. If and only if he lives in Nevada. Second part of this is if it's true or false. So it'll be out of 5 points. 3 will be writing the statement down properly, and the other 2 will be circling true or false here. This is a false statement because the backwards of this statement is not true. Again, with a biconditional, it has to be true both ways. So it is true that if he lives in Vegas, he lives in Nevada. It is not, however, true, though, that if he lives in Nevada, he must live in Vegas. Because he could live in Reno or Carson City or Pahrump or any of the other cities in Vegas or towns like Indian Springs. So this is a false biconditional statement. Now, when I word this on the test, I may have a question, I may have it on the test to where it would be a true statement. How could I make this a true statement? Well, the easiest way to make it a true statement would be to make it mathematical. For example, I could say something like, if 2 angles are supplementary, then they add to 180. The converse of that would be if 2 angles add to 180, then they are supplementary. And that is a biconditional statement because it's true both ways. If 2 angles are supplementary, then they're 180. And if 2 angles add to 180, then they're supplementary. That's a biconditional statement because it's a mathematical definition. So look for a mathematical definition here on the test. And if it's a mathematical definition, then it's a biconditional statement. Notice how I use hypothesis conclusion, conditional statement there to say that. If it's a mathematical definition, then it's a biconditional statement. Anyways, hopefully you'll get this question out on the test. Again, some of these questions are differentiating between the A's and B's. This one in particular is one of those questions. All right, the last 2. It says construct the angle bisector, construct the perpendicular bisector. I'm not going to be looking awfully close at these questions on the tests. I'm not going to be looking super close. All I'm looking for is the proper markings. So when you're doing the construction here, I will give you a compass which you can use. But all you have to do is have the proper markings. So I'm just looking for, do you know what the markings look like and what the angle bisector does? So an angle bisector, it cuts an angle in half. Bisector means cuts in half. Cuts angle in half. So in other words, I'm looking at this angle. I want my finished answer. I'm going to do my finished answer here in green to cut the angle in half. That and that are the same. I've cut the angle in half. Now I just did that freehand. I didn't even use a compass. Then I'll add the markings in. I'm not going to be grading this particularly in depth. I just want you to be able to recognize the markings. So there's the markings. You watched the video in class of this being constructed. We did it together in class with a compass. I'll give you a compass to use for this as well. But again, the concept is what I need you to recognize. What does it look like? Not being able to use the compass. But what does it look like? Same thing on number 18. Cuts a line segment in half. Cuts segment in half. So again, what does this look like? Well, here's my entire segment. Half of it's about right here. And I'm just going to do this freehand. I didn't even use a compass. That segment cuts this segment in half. What did I just draw? A coordinate plane. An XY coordinate plane. And again, the markings, I'm not going to be too particular on the markings. And look, I'm just doing them freehand. I don't even need a compass. I just want you to recognize what the picture looks like. What does the picture look like for a perpendicular bisector? And again, we drew this in class. You can watch the video that I've shown you as well of it being constructed. And you can use the compass to do it in class as well as you work in the question. But the main thing is, do you recognize what the picture looks like? Do you know what the picture looks like? Not can you rotate the compass with your fingers, not can you draw a circle with the compass, but do you know what the picture looks like? Anyway, so those are 5 each. There are 50 points on the back. Again, question 15 is worth 15 for me. It's 5 points for each blank, so it will be 50 points on the back because just 15 is worth 3 questions. Come in before and after school if you want to ask me some questions. I'm more than happy to work these out with you. Good luck.